this is Rachel from Angel Youth Ministry. Welcome back to our Revelation 13 study. Today we're on part 8 of our study. And young people, I hope you've been following along and enjoying the study and enjoying studying the Bible for yourself, because this is what it's all about. In the last part, in part 7, we looked at verse 11 of Revelation 13, and we looked at how the United States comes up and it starts to act like the dragon power, which we know represents paganism. And we saw how just as paganism in the old world gave their military and economic support, as well as surrendering their religion, their national religion, to the papacy, so that the papacy could rule the throne of the earth. Therefore, in our day, the United States will do the same thing, and it's already starting to do so. So after looking at that, now we can look at verse 12. And really, I already covered verse 12 by looking at verse 11 in a way, but we'll look at it again anyway. It says, "And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him." Now, who was the first beast? The first beast that we looked at was the papacy, right? So it says, "He exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed." Okay, so it says that this power will try to get people who are living in the United States, the earth, which we already looked at, to worship the first beast. And later on, as we read on, we'll find out how exactly he will try to get these people to worship the first beast. And not just how, but what kind of worship is being spoken about here. In verse 13 it says, "And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men." And then let's read on verse 14, because it's one sentence. "And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live." Let's stop there. Okay, that's quite a bit. So the part that I want to emphasize here is how he says he doeth great wonders. He makes fire to come down from heaven in the sight of all men. And he deceives the people that are dwelling in that area by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. Okay, so this is a wonder-working power, a power that creates a lot of miracles. Now, have we seen any time in the United States history where there are miracle-working powers which are not of God working in the United States, of a supernatural power, wonder-working, which has the power to deceive many people? Yes, we have. It's actually in history. Some of us may know that in the year 1848, in March, in Hyattsville in New York, what happened there? Well, apparently it was said that the Fox sisters heard little rappings on the door, and they thought it was the spirit of a dead man. And therefore, since then, that's called the birthplace of spiritualism in the United States. That's when, this different spiritualistic stuff has been happening, different spiritualistic movements. And spiritualism, for those of you young people who may not know exactly what it is a counterfeit to God's power. It's the devil's power, which is a counterfeit to God's power. It's the belief in the immortality of the soul. It doesn't matter if you're good or bad, you will still live on and on and on. It's that kind of belief. It's the belief that you can communicate with the dead, with the spirits or the ghosts. That the dead, even though they're dead, they can still live in heaven. Their spirit goes to heaven. You can still communicate with the spirit realm. That kind of thing. That's what spiritualism is. And that began in the United States in 1848. And what the Bible is telling us here is that during the time that America seeks to enforce the fact that everyone has to worship the beast, and we'll look at in a minute how exactly it will try to do that and what exactly that worship is. During that time, there will be even more spiritualistic or satanic manifestations. And I would just like to read here from the book, The Great Controversy. Hope you can see it. The Great Controversy, and this is the book that I like to share with people when I'm outside witnessing. And in The Great Controversy, read about how the devil will try to counterfeit and counterfeit God's power and God's work and even his coming and try to deceive people during this time period. And I'm reading here from the Great Controversy. It's on page 378 on this book, but it says here in brackets between 623 and 625. So somewhere in between there. I think it's probably 624, but it says in this book, it says, fearful sights of a supernatural character will soon be revealed in the heavens, in token of the power of miracle-working demons. The spirits of devils will go forth to the kings of the earth, and to the whole world. Not just people in the United States, but the whole world will see this or notice this. To fasten them in deception. Isn't it interesting that Ellen G. White, who wrote this book, used the same or similar words to describe the supernatural, spiritualistic workings and miracles that the devil will try to do, and she used the same words that the Bible uses in Revelation 13. Notice this, she says that the spirits of devils will go forth, to fasten them in deception. And the Bible says here in verse 14 of Revelation 13, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth. So she's talking about the same thing here. To fasten them in deception and urge them on to unite with Satan in his last struggle against the government of heaven. By these agencies, rulers and subjects will alike be deceived. Persons will arise pretending to be Christ himself and claiming the title and worship which belong to the world's Redeemer. Not just the papacy, we're talking about persons, plural. So forget about the papacy for a minute. We already know they already are claiming the title and worship that belongs to God himself. But other people during this time period will arise saying, I'm Jesus. Doesn't this remind you of Matthew 24, where Jesus says, if people say to you, behold, he's in the desert, don't believe them. There'll be many false Christs which will arise in the end. He even says, he said, wherefore, if they shall say unto you, let's back up, there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show, listen to his wording, great signs and wonders. That's the exact same wording that we find here in Revelation 13. And he doeth great wonders. And it says, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers. Come here, we found Jesus. Believe it not. For as the lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. And for the fact that Jesus said, they shall, if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect, doesn't it show you, it showed me this, that if the devil can counterfeit Jesus coming and counterfeit Jesus so much that he can be so close to deceiving even those who are so strong and tight in Jesus, then doesn't it show us how close we need to be to God? If those who are righteous and holy and who are going to go to heaven and who will make it there and who are already sealed in Jesus are near to being deceived, what about us who aren't even in that experience yet? We need to have such a close foundation and relationship with Jesus now, a strong foundation that cannot be moved. Because if now we yield to temptation in the little areas of the day, if someone can easily lead us to do wrong as young people, if our friends say, hey, come here, let's do this, and we just yield to temptation because, it feels good, or it won't feel good if we say no because people will laugh at us, then during that time of trouble, when that Sunday law passes and the devil will try to counterfeit Jesus Christ with the strongest evidence, it will look, feel, smell like everything. All our senses will tell us this is Jesus. If we're not having a strong foundation now, every day in our experience with Jesus as young people, then when that day comes, we will be deceived. So how important it is that we stay so close to God and know our Bibles like the back of our hands so that we can be able to stand in that last day. So in the next part, part 9, I'm going to share with you more from Revelation 13. Until then, young people, this is Rachel Wells. Study the Bible for yourselves.